Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to reconvene from last night's meeting of 1:15 of 20. Roll call, Mr. Winarski, Ms. Allen, Mr. Brzezinski, Mr. Keys, Ms. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and pledge of allegiance.
I wondered if we could just, in our silent meditation, wish well for Mayor Schemmer, who announced this morning that he will be going through treatment for prostate cancer, and thank him for raising awareness about that issue in our community.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this meeting is reconvened for the discussion of deciding on a procedure for filling the vacant seat at City Council.
Okay, I guess I'll start out at this point just to say we had a resolution placed in front of us here on council, and it did not pass by a 4-2 margin. Not saying that I believe all the people who didn't agree with it disagreed with it totally, but we felt we needed to come up with some adjustments to possibly make the process a little more simpler, a little less time consuming, but still doing the due diligence of giving the candidates that did apply for this open seat a chance to state why they would want this open position. At this point, I'm just going to ask for any discussion from council. I do have one thought I would recommend as council president, and I'd like to throw that out there to see what my colleagues here on council feel with that. In order to give all 30 applicants a fair chance here, I was thinking maybe in 2 weeks on a Thursday, the 30th of January, have a study session and let the candidates come in and have up to 3 minutes to either speak or answer questions from council regarding anything to do with the city or city business. At least by doing that way, we could at least hear from all the applicants that did apply, not just from their resume. And then the following Monday, after hearing that, having the weekend to think that over, come back Monday evening and actually vote on a predecessor to Kaz Kwiatkowski. What the voting would consist of, it can be as simple as picking your top 3 candidates and moving down from there, or picking one candidate right off the bat and seeing how it fares with our 6 members. But I wanted to throw something out there like that to get the conversation going here once again, and to see how we can move forward and get this process completed. Comments?
Mr. President, so there would be 31 people that we would vote on that Monday night, and how would those votes work?
I guess for one, I guess one did drop out, so there's now 30 applicants. But although 30 would be here that Thursday night, on Monday you pick your top 3 candidates out of that 30. And then we go. And
how many votes per person would we get?
That's one per person. I have no problem with the 1 per person, and
so in other words, we have a ballot with 30.
You can vote for up to 3 different candidates.
And that would be.
And then you take the highest of that round of 3 and vote the second time.
Okay, and it's understood that those votes are public then. Like, so when I vote for Sue Snowflake, it's going to be Liz Allen's voting for Sue Snowflake. Correct?
Sure, yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just trying to think of, I didn't want to use a Joe Schmo thing.
That being said, can I move to agree with your resolution, or can put your resolution forward? Somebody else want to speak? I'm just saying, I like the idea.
I have a question because I wasn't here last time you went through the process. So what was the objection to being able to give multiple votes to a particular person?
My objection is that we should be setting an example. I mean, I don't know, maybe everybody else liked that plan, but my objection is that at a time when we are really fighting for our democracy, we have people in all different kinds of jurisdictions standing up for voters' rights, that by voting multiple times for one person, I mean, that skewed the results. Not only did it skew the results, but it was done by secret ballots. So we did not know how stuff was being done, what kind of backdoor deals there were for somebody to say, hey, I'm going to vote 6 times for one person, but I've actually told 6 different people I support them. I just found it repugnant that you could cast 6 votes for one person. I mean, I've been on a lot of different boards, and I had never seen something like that. And I think we should be setting an example for transparency in terms of voting in public and 1 vote per person. But I mean, if you want to have 6 votes per person, but you're going to have to say in public, Michael Keyes is voting 6 times for one person. And then who's going to be the first? I'm sorry, who's going to be the first one who does that? Because once those dominoes fall, you have to start thinking, oh, wait a minute, Michael Keyes, I mean, if we start from, a lot of times we start the committee reports with me, and I'm first alphabetically. So if I say, I'm sticking to my principle of 1 vote per person, and then Mel, my good buddy here, says, no, I really want to vote 6 times for one person, I've already lost. I've lost any kind of clout in seeing how this would come out. So.
Mr. Keyes.
Oh, I agree with you on the transparency. I just, was trying to factor in, how strong a person feels about a particular candidate. Maybe they should be able to weigh in by that graduated amount. Like, say, this is my ride to die guy. I have nobody else there. I shouldn't be limited to 1 vote because I only have 1 person that I would vote for. And so that can make it unfair in a different way.
I think where people should know where this came from, and I don't know if it was in the 60s or the 70s when there was an appointment that was needed on council, and there was 120 applicants, and I believe it might have been Council President Brabender that came up with that theory to you can vote 6 times all for one person to narrow down the field sooner to get to the bread and butter of the election or the appointment. And when that came in those late 60s, early 70s, it's just stuck with this council till now. And I personally don't have no problem with 1 vote, 1 person, or 3 votes, 3 people. If what we decide is just something fair, I have no problem with the transparency. It's just something that we still need to simplify. We don't need to have interviews on top of interviews on top of choices and then 5 rounds of voting. Let's simplify it, but still give each candidate a due diligence of some time to talk to council.
Can I ask how we got down to the 20 people who were interviewed last time? How it went from 51 to 20?
I can speak to that because I remember how we did it. I suggested that we send out 3 questions that we came up with collectively for those 51 applicants. There was one person who, there might have been 2 people who were eliminated. One person was not a city resident, and so I think we talked to the city solicitor about that, and another person had not resided here for 1 year, which was a requirement, but everybody else had 3 questions that they had to answer, and when we got those answers back, we met in the caucus room and shared who we wanted as our candidates. I think we all had, 5 people that we wanted, we 5, which would be 30 people, but there was overlap, so that's how it got to 20, because we realized that, maybe I probably had the only people. I could look at my list, because I kept my own spreadsheet, even though it wasn't a vote. Some people say Kathy had chosen, 2 people that also were at the top of the list, or on, Jim's short list or Mel's short list. So by the time we said, okay, we each want 5 people to come in for interviews, it was reduced just by kind of attrition, because we had duplicate names. So that's how we did it that time.
What's amazing about this, I think, I believe Shakespeare wrote something called Much Ado About Nothing. Last time you guys did this, you came up with a super candidate. Curtis Jones became the guy who rose to the top. I was in the list, but he was better because he was more current. He knew exactly what was going on. I trust the rest of you folks here to vote your conscience and to do the right thing. So playing around with A, B, C, D and all this kind of stuff, I think you're killing the horse. It complicates it. It doesn't need to be that complicated. All of us have to look in the mirror and look at the folks out there and do what we think is the best thing that we can do. That's where I'm coming from.
But I think what happened was, and Curtis was really a good choice to come on council. He brought experience here. But what happened was those votes where some people were waiting their votes, and we didn't find out about that. Some people who may have known how they did it in the 60s or 70s knew that. I walked into the council chambers that night and saw that paragraph about how you could cast all your votes for one person. So we ended up with a good candidate, but the process was at least flawed. It wasn't explained. I know I am, how many cliches can we have? Maybe I'm beating a dead horse. If I had known when I first asked how these appointments were filled, I kept the email. It didn't have that paragraph. And I don't think that I'm being unreasonable in saying that I felt like the rules had changed, even though everybody said, no, these were always the rules. I keep stuff. I mean, it's just the way I am. It's probably why my desk at my old job was always a mess, but I could always find stuff, and it's why I keep emails. The old cover your, I like to make sure I have documentation for what I'm talking about. So I had that original piece of paper, which I can pull out now and show you, where it talked about the rounds, and then we come in right before we start voting, and I think I don't even remember if we were here or not, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, this skews things. And I didn't think it was right to cast all 6 votes for one person, because I felt that there were a lot of qualified candidates that we needed to advance to try and reach consensus, so.
Sure.
So, thank you, Mr. President. I would suggest, instead of 3 minutes of time for the 30 people that may show up, 2 minutes, just to keep it to an hour. I mean, I'll be here for 5 hours. There's that one show on Parks and Recreation where she goes for a 24-hour period. I'm here for the duration. But at one point, my attention span isn't what it was the beginning of the hour to the end of the hour. You know what I'm saying?
I'm good with that, yes. As well as if you can't get your point across in 2 minutes or less, then you're gonna lose somebody.
Right.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I guess I'm the only one here that has gone through four, maybe three for sure, but four appointments under the current system of 6 votes. And each time, the individuals that were selected were outstanding individuals. I don't know about the backdoor politics. Maybe I was left out because my choices in all 3 situations never rose to the top. But we still wind up with some outstanding individuals. And we have to keep in mind, you know, I've received phone calls and conversations, well, you have to vote for a Democrat and not a Republican. And when you approach me that way, I'll tell you where to go, how quick to get there. Right? We're talking about individuals. When we answer the phone and there's a problem, we don't ask, are you a Democrat or Republican? Well, I'm a Republican. Well, we're gonna leave you a pothole in front of your house. We don't do that. You get a call, the person is a citizen, first and foremost. When we replaced the position with Mr. Evans, everyone on council said we need someone with a financial background because we were losing a person with financial background. And that's how John Evans got there, based on what we as a council needed. What do we need now? Kaz was very sharp in finance. We need to look at that. Who's bringing some financial background to council? So the system that we have used in the past worked. But if there's time for change, then we make the change. You make the change for good. Understand we can't dialogue for 2 more days on what process we're going to use. Let's define the process and move on and make it happen and select the best candidate out here. Now, all of us know a lot of folks. I know I have about 1/3 of folks call me. And I haven't made a decision. Be honest with you, I blocked it out in my mind. I got other things to think about too. But now I'm focused because we're at the bewitching hour. Now I look at individuals and make a decision. And maybe none of mine may rise to the top. That's up to us. Whatever decision is made in the final, we welcome that individual in hopes that that individual will take time to learn what this job is all about before you step into deep water. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. So I'm going to say it one more time, and maybe I don't even know if we have to make it a resolution. It's just an agreement we're having on council that we're going to move forward with the process and having a Thursday, God bless you, a Thursday night study session on the 30th, which, what do we need, 2 weeks for that? Rose, are we in line with advertising?
No, we've already advertised our study sessions.
So can we do one for Thursday, though, in 2 weeks, for a study session?
Well, study
Or
sessions
or would we
advertised.
call it just a,
What do you say, Ed? We advertise our study sessions for the year on Thursdays at 5:30.
You already have a
Yeah.
meeting, just refer that as a meeting.
okay. So we'll plan on a study session on Thursday the 30th of January, and then interview all the candidates. We'll go with the 2 minutes that Ms. Schaaf suggested. There'll be plenty of time before then and some time after that if the candidates want to reach out to council members just to add something that may have not been gotten to be said at the podium there. And then Monday, we'll meet at 5:30. That would be Monday, February the 3rd. We'll meet at 5:30 and vote on a selection. And in that voting selection, we'll go with all people on council's 3 top candidates they would like to see, and then go down with the vote from there.
Mr. President, if a candidate reach out to any one of us with additional information or concern that was not presented to the group, then anything short of me not calling the rest of council, then they will not know about the additional information. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing, because if 30, it's a lot of time on the phone. If 30 calls all of us bringing in that information, because if it's just me and I share it, I'm gonna lose something of what he or she may have told me.
Emails.
So I suggest that whatever they present to the group is what we go with.
And then maybe we'll, because, you know, to do what Mel is, maybe do it 2.5 minutes instead of 2 minutes. Just
2 minutes is fine.
Okay, you think 2 minutes is good?
2 minutes is fine. I would suggest that we get this in writing though, Mr. President. You're talking it, but
Yeah, and even with the voting on Monday, I want to say after everybody picks their first top 3 potential candidates or top 3 candidates, then how it narrows down if the top 2 move on to the final round then. If there's a tie, then the top 3, it depends on where the tie is at.
Could you just clarify how many people are we, so we are voting for 3 people or up to 3 people? And
You can vote up to 3 people.
can you vote 3 times for one person?
No.
Rose, would you be able to have the clerks be emailed so that they would have the information to attend the 30th?
You want the clerks to attend the study session?
No, to email the candidates, I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, of course.
Mr. Betza, that sounds legal enough?
It does. I just want to make sure I understand it. So we have 6 members of council. Each are allotted up to 3 votes with no more than 1 vote per applicant. So the most we could possibly have would be 18 that would receive votes. I assume that some will have, some may not have, as Mr. Key said, if he only has 1 candidate, he may choose to only vote for 1. But I just want to make sure I understand. Then we're saying the top 2 of all the votes. So out of the 18 possible, or out of the 18, up to 18 cast votes, the top 2 vote getters will be deemed the finalists. If there's a tie, we'll add 3 or 4, and then council will vote. We need 4 votes to appoint them.
Correct.
That is legal.
Can I address you, Mr. President? My recommendation would be to do either take it to 4, so that if you're doing 1, 2, or 3, those are so easy to end up with at a tie. You know, go split 3 and 3, 2 and 2, you know what I mean? And so maybe 4 being an odd number might be less likely that we end up in a tie. Yeah, but I'm saying not divided among the 6 of the council.
So you're saying that we would have the top 4, like I would give my top 4, you would give your top 4? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was saying of the top 3, the top 4 with out of the votes from the 6th council member would move on instead of the top 2. That's what I'm saying. Suggesting.
So you're saying the top 4 votes?
The top 4 vote getters in the first round would move on, is what he's suggesting.
That's legal as well. I mean, it's just, you pick the number.
So each council person can choose up to 4 candidates
No,
now?
up to 3.
Up to
No, ma'am.
3?
Up
First
to
round.
3, and then the issue is how many finalists would council ultimately vote for?
That would
I've
be
heard
one
2 and I've heard 4.
Getting confused.
And then the voting would be,
There's 4 of them, we still get 1 vote. There's 3 of them, we get 1 vote at the end.
Correct.
All council people still get 1 vote.
1 vote.
And so I'm just trying to guard against, you know, the tie, the eventual tie, so that if we bring in 4 people, it'll be less.
okay, so this is what I have. In study session on Thursday night at 5:30, January 30th, 2020, all 30 candidates will appear with 2 minutes each. Each council member can choose up to 3 candidates for the first round, but I don't have how the voting is going to take place.
That is on Monday.
Right, Monday, February 5th at 5:30, voting will commence, and I have 1 vote per person. Do you want me to add to that?
You can do 3 votes, up to 3 votes of different candidates. 3 different candidates. 1 vote, 3 different.
So up to 3 votes per candidate.
Could I just suggest another alternative? You don't have to do it. I was thinking, you know, you start with 30, you're only gonna vote for up to 3, so you could have 18,
Could have most likely.
about half. My suggestion is vote for all 18 on the second, include all 18, but only vote for 1 this time. Just, and again, that's just a suggestion. So you narrowed it down from 30 to 18, and now with 1 vote, you know, eventually you wanna get to 1 person getting at least 4 votes.
That's simple and understandable.
I like simple. And I like understandable.
It gives you when you limit it to like 2 or 3 or 4 people at the end,
It starts,
you eliminate a lot of possibilities. This keeps more possibilities open, I guess, for the final decision.
I'm good with that, council.
So we have voting for our top 3, and let's say we have 18 people. And then what do we do next?
You're only voting
for
for
one.
1.
18.
And we could have 12 people or 10
Yes.
people.
Okay.
We don't,
So let's say I wanted to vote for Susie Snowflake. So I just put her down and just vote the one time,
that's all you can,
right? And then what happens?
is that your final vote or your, one of your 3?
Okay, I thought you were eliminating the 3.
No, the first round is
First
3.
round is 3 votes.
What happens at
Different people.
this point?
First,
Where she's at, what happens if, when we're voting for 1, and that 1 person, Snowflake, have 4 votes? Do we go any further? No. Okay.
the only, so what you're proposing is, and I told you yesterday that it's gonna be ugly no matter what you do, however you do it. You're gonna go from 30. At most, you would have 18 if everyone nominated 3 different people. If you then have 1 vote, at most, you would go down to 6. But where it could get sticky is if you each have a different person, now what?
And does it have to be 4 votes, or does it have to be the majority of the votes? 3, it could be 3 and 2, it could be 3, 2, 1, could be 4, 2, you know.
Well, I think what you want to do, because what I'm afraid of is you could end up in a stalemate where 2 support 1, 2 support 1, and 2 support 1, and I'm not budging. I got the right candidate, your candidate's not as good, I'm gonna hold my ground. And now we've got an awkward situation. So I think you have to have a way to get down to 2. I don't care how many steps you take to get there, but now I'm gonna get well, I guess you could still conceivably have a tie, please don't. But you could, if you get down to 2, then you vote and someone's gonna come out the winner. That would seem to be the way to avoid a 6-person or a large number of people digging in their heels.
Could the mayor break the tie?
That's the rule. But it puts him in an awkward position too, or the
Well,
mayor.
If it comes to that, we'll go into executive session to discuss how that works.
I just want to remind everybody what happened in 2012 when it came down to Tom Maggio and John Evans. According to the story in the paper, 26 candidates applied for the seat vacated by Schember. Council on May 24th narrowed the applicant pool to the 2 finalists through a series of votes in which members did not reveal whom they voted for, but which showed how many votes each candidate received. That meeting ended in a deadlock. Maggio and Evans each received 3 votes in the last 4 of 8 ballots. Had council deadlocked again on Wednesday, Mayor Joe Sinek could have been called upon to break the tie. Instead, this time, Clem started the process by asking each council member whether they supported Evans. 4 members, Jessica Haran-Kunso, Jim Winarski, Mel Witherspoon, and Council President Curtis Jones Jr., who voted last, said they did. Councilman David Brennan and Bob Mursky did not support Evans. With a majority supporting Evans, a vote on Maggio was unnecessary, so just...
Well, but that way actually works. You need 4, get 4.
That's what you're telling us, get.
I will have failed you if we don't have 4. You need to get 4. One way or another, you need to get 4. Having a tie, and again, if we have a tie, we'll discuss the legal process of how that works. We're not gonna do that here, but that is not good.
Get 4.
Creates issues.
And ideally, I think you want 6, so everybody
Yeah,
agrees on the
absolutely.
selection, and that person doesn't feel certain people don't like me, others do. You gotta work to get there by talking to each other.
Got this, Rose? No.
The honesty.
I'll tell you what I do have, and
Who's
then
on
you can
first?
fill me in. I have in-study session on Thursday night at 5:30, January 30th, 2020. All 30 candidates will appear with 2 minutes each. Each council member can choose up to 3 candidates for the first round. Then Monday, February 5th at 5:30, the voting will commence. And I need help from there.
But those 3 votes are on that Monday, you understand that?
Yes, okay. So the
All
3,
All 30 candidates are still on the ballot on Monday.
Correct.
okay, there'll
Votes,
be,
Recess for the count and come back, or we just sit here waiting?
No, they'll add.
okay,
they'll
so
add.
if everybody picks 3, oh, there's only gonna be 3 then on Monday.
Each person votes for 3.
Nope.
We'll start the voting process on Monday at 5:30.
Oh, okay.
Every council person allowed to pick up to 3 candidates.
Okay, I have that up in the study session. And in the study session, you're just going to interview the candidate?
Correct.
Okay, all right, that's, okay, so let me go back. So then, I'm not good with the laptop, sorry.
For each candidate or each council member is permitted to cast 1 vote for up to 3 applicants. They can choose to do 1, 2, or 3. That'll leave us with a number between
6 and 18.
6 and 18. Well, maybe 1 and 18. See if everybody vote 1, only do 1, and it could all be the same person. That'd be the greatest moment that we could ever have. But, so we'll be between 1 and 18. Then at that point, every council member will be permitted to cast 1 vote for up to 1 vote for 1 applicant. Out of
After that?
Out of that 1 to 18 people. Does that make sense? Everyone gets to pick 3 out of the 30.
Okay,
That'll give us some number between 1 and 18.
okay,
Every council member then can cast up to 1 vote for somebody on that list. And that will give us a number between 1 and 6.
Then we thumb wrestle till we get the winner.
Well, somehow you need to get to 1 or 2, because if you're at 2, it's pretty easy then. Vote for 1 of them. But if you've got to get down from, if that number is above 2, how do you get down to 2? So we have 4 people. We go from 30 to 10 down to 4. Then what?
Bunt.
You cast another vote?
We probably would have to cast another
Yeah,
vote.
it would seem
With
like we'd have
less
to-
candidates then? Under that, we would cast a vote just for those 4 that were remaining?
And
Do
then
what
it
the
ends
judge
up
do.
well, if it,
2-2-1, or, that'd be just too many,
4, didn't you say 4?
he said
Four's the
between, there
max.
could be between 1 and 6
I'm
left.
just saying, what if, so, if there's 4 I'm just saying hypothetically, there's 4 finalists. Somebody, you're gonna be connected to one of those 4, you're gonna be connected to one of those 4, and now everybody just kinda digs their heels in. You're at an impasse. You've gotta get it down below 4. You've gotta get it down to 2 in order to get it to 1.
Should there be some time between votes to talk about why you voted for a certain person, why you think they'd be good, or just to share ideas?
I always hate being the bearer of bad news. That's the most efficient way. It's not allowed to be done that way. And the reason you're allowed to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters, so strengths and weaknesses of employees can be done in private. Strengths and weaknesses of non-employees, candidates, applicants, potential hires, all of that is open session.
So if we end up with 4, what we do, just take another vote? Is that what's being asked?
Yes, but like Mr. Betts was saying, what if nobody changes their stance? Eventually,
Well, out of 4, 2 people, at least 2 people are gonna have 2 votes. And so those would be the people who move
top.
up.
that would make sense.
And that's where I'm kinda getting at, is if you have 5 or 4 or 3, you say the top 2 then move to the final round.
That is pretty simple to me. Sounds good to me. We're good with that, right?
Depends on what Rose has.
Those are still on the
Rose
study
is calling in
session.
sick that night.
I'm going with what she has.
Okay,
Rose is saying, how do you turn this thing on?
yeah, okay. I've got all that. Each council member is permitted to cast one vote for their 3 applicants, and out of that, there could be 1 to 18 people. So every council member can cast one vote, and that could yield a number between 1 and 6. So that's at the point where I'm at. How are you going to vote at that point? Well, I guess it'd be a contingency, because if it's down to 1, it's done.
One is over,
It's over.
but otherwise, at least
But if it's not, we better make
picking the
clear
top
how
2
we're
for the
gonna
final
do
vote
that.
then?
Top 2 for the final vote.
So if that's the case, you're casting 3 out of the 30, 1 in the second round, 1 in the third round, and with that third round, the top 2 would move on to the final unless somebody already has 4. Once somebody hits 4, it's over.
You ladies want to change your name to Susie Snowflake, you got it made. That's all I can say about that.
I didn't hear that. Yes. Oh,
All the votes will be read out loud.
All right, being the person with the first letter in the alphabet, and also the person who often gives the first committee report, and the person with the seat that's closest to the door, and not wanting to belabor things, but do we have a process for how we announce our votes? I mean, my neck will be out there first, I'm assuming, but.
Well, I think you create problem, so the very issue you're talking about of, it doesn't matter how you do it as long as everybody knows the rules going in. But I think if you start and you go down a line, I think that can create, you can render somebody's vote of no value, or you can change the way that they vote. What I would suggest is that you write down your votes on a sheet of paper, and it'll be attached to your name.
Okay.
So it's public, but it would not be a traditional voice vote, but it'd be a written vote, there would be a record of it, and it
Okay.
can then be passed to the clerk, and it can then be
The
tallied.
clerk could, okay, I like that.
What that prevents is somebody saying, you know, so-and-so got 12 votes,
I might
and
as
no
well-
one knows
Yeah,
how'd they get 12 votes, because I didn't vote for it, no one knows. At least you'd be able to check it, calculate it, make sure it's accurate.
So when I receive the ballots and open the ballot, do I say the name of the council person, the name of the candidate, and the vote? Or what is my part in all that?
Well, I don't have an objection to reading, I mean, it would be public record, so I don't have an objection. The key part is to know the candidate who received the application, but you could
I mean, the last time we
randomly
did
pick
it,
it.
we had our ballots.
Councilwoman Allen, number 1, number 2, number 3. Councilman Witherspoon, number 1, number 2, number 3. And then we can tally them.
So to answer your question, Rose, yes, you can name the council person whose ballot you have in front of you and their 3 votes. And then next round, council person whose ballot you have and their 2 votes, or 1 vote.
We could ask 29 people to pull their application. Are we done? I gotta get to convention center, or else the mayor's gonna have to give me a party slip.
Okay, I just wanna make sure if we're gonna, I don't know how, we're just gonna use this as a handout or something for, if we're not making a resolution.
No,
This is
it's not a
just going to be our guideline.
Well, this would be the guideline for this election. For this
Okay.
appointment. It's up to council how it wishes to do it. going
Okay, well, let me tell you what I have, council, and you tell me if you approve or not. In study session on Thursday night at 5:30, January 30th, 2020, all 30 candidates will appear with 2 minutes each. Monday, February 5th at 5:30, voting will commence. Each council member can choose up to 3 candidates for the first round. Each council member is permitted to cast 1 vote for 3 applicants. Out of that, 1 to 2, 18 people could be chosen. Every council member can cast 1 vote, and that will give a number between 1 and 6. If we have to go on, if that happens, and we have to go on to a 3rd round, in the 3rd round, the top 2 would move to the final round.
May, February 3rd is the Monday, not the 5th.
February 3rd, thank you, Mayor.
It's a Monday.
Okay.
Part of that too, so on our council meeting on February 5th, we'll have that candidate or that council person-elect then would be ready to be installed for that meeting. So,
Yes, and we'll have the swearing in at that time.
Third. It's the 3rd.
It's the 3rd, and the study session, that's correct, though, that will be January 30th, that's a Thursday. Okay.
very good. Thank you all for your input. I think at this point, Rosie, we can close the meeting.
Okay, city council adjourns at 2:55. Mr. Winarski, Ms. Allen, Mr. Brzezinski, Mr. Keys, Mr. Schaaf, Mr. Witherspoon.